It's time once again for everybody to come aboard that one and done train. Welcome to One and Done. Bienvenidos a todos a One and Done, your fast break of college basketball información. The America East finished the 2025-2026 season with its worst overall metrics in nearly 25 years. And on this edition of the program, we'll chop up all 9 teams and place them ever so gently into our world-famous tiers. Let's see if this conference can pull themselves out of the college basketball basement and into relevance. My name is Jay Heinrich, the conductor of the aforementioned One and Done train. Joined tonight, as always, the man known around here as El Capitan himself. He's the captain of the One and Done ship at MC Holland 34 on X, the OG Money Mike, Mr. Mike Holland. Mike, it's America East night. What it do?
What it do? It's America East night. We're recording this in early July, so we are guaranteeing that once we hit March, these predictions will all come to fruition, as most typically do. But yeah, I'm excited to dive into this conference. This is one that Vermont typically dominated, but not so much recently. We've seen a couple of other programs rise up, and I think we got a few teams in the mix at the top, and we'll break this whole thing down.
We will break it all down. But first, we're going to ask you to smash those like and subscribe buttons, hit those notifications on the FSAN basketball channel on YouTube, and also throw down an alley-oop on a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Music as well. Follow along as we cover college basketball year-round right here on One and Done. Let's get to it, Mike. Let's get to the America East. Finished 30th out of 31 conferences in KenPom's strength of conference metrics. That ain't too good. Unfortunately, the lowest finish for the conference since 2002. UMBC would take advantage and hold off perennial power in both Vermont in both the regular season and conference tournament to secure the double-double. UMBC would, get themselves a nice little 16 seed there, Mike, that play-in opportunity against Howard in Dayton, where they would fall 86-83. A rare case of no realignment in the America East. So we will once again have 9 schools battle it out in the 26-27 season. So, Mike, without further ado, I think it's time for those world-famous tiers. Let's get to them. Here on One and Done, we like to rank every team in all 32 conferences into our low tier, the old mid tier, and of course the high tier. So let's start with the low tier, the foundation of the conference. Try to start it with a little bit of positivity here. And we're going to start it with those Black Bears of Maine, 6-10 in the conference last season.
Yeah, Coach Chris Markwood heading into year 5 with the program and trying to jumpstart an anemic offense from last year, 363rd in the country. There were only 365 teams, Jay, so that would place them bottom 3 in the country. So definitely something that Coach Markwood is trying to fix coming into this offseason. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, much of the roster is going to be gone, and we're going to have a bunch of transfers and incoming freshmen, but they do have a significant last name spotlight player that is returning, and that is Ace Flagg, who averaged 6.5 points, 4 boards, pretty solid freshman year, and really good on the defensive end as well. So looking forward to seeing what he can do in his second year. But, without a big jump from him and a couple of these other guys, you just wonder about the lack of playmaking and shot making on this squad, man. I think Maine has definitely a chance to be better on the defensive end, but, man, the jump in offense is going to need to be significant if they're going to be competitive, and I just don't quite seeing them having the guns to do that. So the next team on our list here, Jay, is UMass Lowell, the Riverhawks, 9-7, joining Maine here in the low tier, and this is year 14 for Coach Pat Duquette, the head man for the Riverhawks here. I don't see this roster reaching 500 unless he coaches his butt off. He could absolutely do that. The problem is they lack size. They don't have any defensive pedigree, and they lack outside shooting as well. So when you put those 3 things together, you typically don't have a lot of success. I think one guy we can keep an eye on is Georgia State transfer Ja'Kai Newton. who started out his career at Indiana. I think he could definitely be someone at least worth watching here as they try to drag themselves out of this low tier that we have them projected in.
Yeah, I was doing a little research before the show and looking up some Ja'Kai Newton stuff, and there he is. It's Bronny James versus Ja'Kai Newton, and that's the YouTube video that I was watching. So obviously the pedigree is there, and we'll see if he can tap into that for UMass Lowell, those pesky River Hawks and Coach Pat Duquette. One more team here, Mike, in our low tier in the America East, and that is NJIT. The Highlanders, 10-6 in the conference last year, so we're actually projecting them to take a little bit of a dip here. Quite a Cinderella type season of sorts last year for Coach Grant Billmeyer. They really outperformed expectations, and at midseason, it was sort of looking like they're for real. They're right there. It's just, can you grab it? Can you reach out? And they sort of just faded down a little bit down the stretch. So is 10 wins realistic, Mike? Ooh. Is this the team taking a step back? What do you think?
Yeah, I remember doing the mid-major minute when they were leading the conference. It was like, can they pull off a couple more wins? And yeah, it just didn't quite happen, but a fantastic season for Coach Billmeyer. I don't think that magic's going to continue. Got a roster reset here. They do have a really solid player returning, point guard David Bolden, who was actually the rookie of the year in this league. He averaged 12 points, 3 assists. So, there aren't many guys you can point to as difference makers. David Bolden is definitely one of them. They also have a problem with the least projected experience of all the teams in the conference per Torvik. So there's just not a lot of guys that have Division I chops. Unless they get a breakout player too, I definitely think we see NJIT back at the bottom of the league.
It's tough to deal with roster turnover as it is, but when you literally
all three teams,
when you have some of the least experience in college basketball as well, that's a tough pill to swallow there for NJIT. Joined in the low tier by UMass Lowell and, of course, Maine. Imagine being named Ace and you're not the best player in your family. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it probably doesn't bother Ace Flag at all, but it's those are big shoes to fill no matter what. That's like a gift and a curse, right? Oh, my brother's Cooper Flag. Great. Oh, you're not Cooper Flag. You suck. No, he's a great player, and he's going to hopefully improve and maybe elevate Maine out of this low tier. Who knows? So let us know in the chat, in the comments, wherever you're checking us out. Let us know if you agree with these three teams at the bottom, like Mike and I like to joke around and say. Let's look back at the end of March and April, and of course, these are all going to just look perfect, exactly how we predicted
100%.
them. 100%. Yeah, maybe not. Mike, we did have a pretty high percentage of conference champions in our high tier. We will hang our hat on that. But that was the low tier in the America East, and let's move on now to the old mid tier, and it starts with the Albany Great Danes, 7-9 in America East play last season. Coach Dwayne Killings enters year 6 with Albany, looking to crack the 500 mark in conference play for the very first time. With them in the mid tier, we believe their ceiling is going to fall right around that 500 mark.
Yeah, I think a big reason for that is they're going to remain competitive because they have this guard returning, Zach Matulu. He averaged 10 points, really good rebounder for his position, 6 boards. And then you have center Abdoulaye Fall, averaged 10 points and 3 boards in limited minutes. So, with Matulu as an effective starter, you have Fall, who was playing really well before an injury cost him most of the season. You get those 2 guys back. I think that's got a solid floor. A lot of whether they can break through the 500 barrier is definitely going to fall on the shoulders of Canadian import point guard Oliver Ingen. So if he's able to, give them another weapon there, they could definitely get over that 500 barrier. But, the thing is they got to improve their defense. We could definitely see this team, the teams that we're going to talk about in the mid tier, we could potentially see them be up in the high tier when the season ends. But a couple of those things have to kind of go right for them. I just think for now we just have too many question marks to safely put them in the high tier, which is why we're gonna relegate them here to the old mid tier, like you said, Jay. And then Binghamton, the Bearcats were 4-12 last season. Coach Lavelle Sanders' squad kind of in the same boat as Coach Killings and the Great Danes. Both are in year number 6, looking to crack the 500 mark. Binghamton, they got a lot going on as far as retention. They returned 51% of their minutes played, which is the most in the conference. So they have guard Jeremiah Quigley. He averaged 14.5 points, 6.5 assists. Obviously, one of the better players returning in this conference. And then a big boost here, big man Demetrius Lilly. He started off at Penn State, was at LaSalle. He got a medical year. He was posting 14.5 points and nearly 10 boards. So basically a 15 and 10 guy in 11 games. Both players obviously have a legit chance to earn first team all conference. Jay, I don't know if there's much else to kind of go with them, which is why they're here in our mid tier.
Yeah, the problem with this team, Mike, is that they were horrible defensively. Bottom 5 in the entire country in defensive efficiency. And just looking at the roster that they've assembled, it's hard to I don't know that they'll be a bottom 5 basement sort of a team, but it's hard to forecast them to just be too much higher than that, right, with this group returning. But, there's the gift and the curse, right, when you return 51% of your minutes, but you didn't play much defense. Where's the balance there, right? But they do have the makings of a very elite offensive group, so that's going to keep them competitive on a night-in and night-out basis. So Binghamton, the Bearcats in the mid-tier, and closing out the mid-tier, the Bryant Bulldogs, 5-11 in conference play last year after a big-time 4-year stretch between Jared Grasso and Phil Martelli Jr., right? The Bulldogs fell back a little bit in year 1 under Coach Christian.
Yeah, it was a tough year, obviously going 5-11 and following up Phil Martelli's season. Look, it was fun, top 15 type tempo, swarming defense that we saw under Martelli completely flipped. They were slow and they didn't play any defense. So I think we do see some improvement in year 2. They have their point guard Ty Tabalis back. Big man Keegan Harvey is there to kind of anchor the squad. Yes, Tabalis was pretty poor shooting during his freshman year, but he was a freshman. I expect him to improve to go along with the quality playmaking and defensive pedigree that he had last year. And then Harvey, was one of the most effective offensive players in the conference. He was second during conference play in offensive rating. So a big man they can get the ball to that's going to get you efficient buckets. You always love that. And then they got a P5 transfer, Jay, guard Eric Chatfield coming in from Georgia Tech. I do like this ad of forward Andre Pasha coming in from New Haven. He's got some D1 experience, posting 11 points, 5 boards. So you have a solid core to work with. They're going to be pretty young. Their bench is definitely a question mark, and I think that's what's going to ultimately limit their ceiling. But overall, this is a pretty solid roster, and I expect some improvement in year 2 for Coach Christian.
Yeah, you hope Chatfield can find a way to elevate his game a little bit, and that's what Bryant's going to need to elevate themselves from the mid-tier where we have them up to that high tier. We'll see if they can get it done. Joining Bryant in the mid-tier, Albany and Binghamton. Right now, we got 3 in the low tier, 3 in the mid-tier. They're not always balanced when we do these shows, Mike, but on this edition of the show, we've got 3, and since this is a 9-team conference, we'd subtract 6, carry the 4, divide by 2. There's 3 teams in the high tier. Hop in the comments anywhere you are checking us out. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think about the tiers so far, about the teams in the America East as we move on to the high tier. And that's right, it's perennial power Vermont. The Catamounts 12-4 in the conference last year, and is it safe to say they're one of the most dominant mid-major programs this century? With what they brought to the table on a year-in and year-out basis. Since Coach John Becker took over in the 2011-2012 season, Vermont has won 9 league crowns, Mike, and made 6 tourney appearances while winning 10 or more conference games every single season.
Yeah, that's a pretty dominant performance in this one, right? And they've been up there at the top, right? They finished the last couple of years in the high tier, just not quite capturing the conference tourney titles. So you can understand why not winning the league or the conference tournament the last couple of years is going to be a disappointment, because that's what they've been used to, right? And this year, the expectations are going to be exactly the same. They have the best player in the conference that is returning forward, Gus Yalden. This guy averaged 16 points, 6 boards, and only 25 minutes a game. So he was first team all AEC, and if this guy plays 32 to 33 minutes, he's going to put up crazy numbers. Also back is his front court mate, Noah Barnett. He was actually 18th in the country in offensive rating. So this pair is going to be an absolute nightmare for all these other teams. There's going to be a lot of new faces around them, though. There's 6 transfers that are coming in, 4 freshmen arrive. I do like this interconference transfer of Daryl Yepto. coming in from UMass Lowell. Obviously was in the conference last year, averaged 10 points, 3 assists. So he's an experienced leader at the point guard position. So you love that at the point. And then the two bigs, right? The Catamounts are definitely going to be great again. The question is, will they finish it off at the top of the league in the regular season? And even if they don't, will they capture the conference tournament? They have a great opportunity to pull off a double-double this year. The two teams that I think are going to challenge them, one was the team that got the league crown last year, UMBC, 14-2, right? The AEC's Coach of the Year, Jim Ferry, really put it all together. With that, obviously, your success, especially in this level of college basketball, your roster gets poached. So it's a reset button, but we still feel like they're going to be highly competitive. Probably the biggest gamble in the conference. We could maybe see, we talked about the roster, with Bryant and Binghamton and even in Albany, right? Any of those teams could really jump up here. So we're taking a little bit of a gamble just based on, what we have, the knowns, right, on this team, man. You have Flash Burton at point guard. We're kind of trusting in him. He comes in from Ryder, where he averaged 15 points and 3 assists. So I think he's going to be really good for him. Guard Devin Caesar, another player with a lot of upside. He's missed the last couple of years, but he was at Old Dominion a few years ago where he averaged double figures in league play. So those two guys, I think, are going to be difference makers. And then putting a lot of stock into sophomore Riley Jacobs. He put up some really nice metrics as a freshman on the glass and on the defensive end. And, Jay, I think he's just going to get better and better as it goes on. I like what Jim Ferry's obviously done.
Listen, man, if they're going to live up to this, Coach Ferry is going to have to squeeze every bit of juice out of that lemon once again. If he doesn't, this is a team that I could easily see slip back down a little bit after, making that run last year. But if he can find a way to sort of just mold this roster, he's going to have to do it again. It's going to take another Coach of the Year type performance. See if he can get it done. One more team, Mike, that's New Hampshire, the Wildcats. So a 5-11 campaign last year in the conference. So what's different this year for Coach Nathan Davis and his squad?
Yeah, so I really like that they're returning a lot of guys, right? Second most percentage of minutes played in the conference at over 40%. You have guard Tyler Bike and David Pozer back, and they can really stretch the floor. So you got two guys that can really shoot the ball. You have forward John Squire, who has obviously a great name, but also he's really effective inside. So really, really strong inside presence for them. You definitely need that when you're going up against the likes of those guys that we talked about at Vermont. And then you have this intriguing transfer, Drew McKenna. So McKenna is a former top 5 player out of the state of Maryland. He started his career at Georgetown, spent some time at Old Dominion, still hasn't really tapped into the recruiting pedigree. I'm tapping him as one of the breakout players to kind of watch in this conference. This is year 3 for him, so if the light's going to turn on, I think it has to happen now. And obviously, I think that would help the Wildcats' perspectives for getting into this high tier. But I definitely like that they have a lot of size and a lot of experience too. So I think those two things are going to carry a lot of weight for the Wildcats.
Are we going to start the Drew McKenna for newcomer of the year in the America East campaign right here on One and Done?
I think we will.
We might should do that right now. Let's just get it rocking. We'll make some hashtag. I don't know what it is. I'm not good at that stuff, but we'll figure it out for Drew McKenna, who we will see if he can get everything out of his play for New Hampshire. And we have the Wildcats in our high tier in the America East Conference, joined by Vermont and UMBC. That's the high tier. Our mid tier in the America East, Albany, Binghamton, and Bryant. And down there at the foundation, the low tier of the conference, Maine, UMass, Lowell, and NJIT. Mike, before we shut it down here on this conference preview, when you have a team like Vermont, right, and then the interconference transfer of Yepdo, how much does that make a difference to have someone that has played in the league, understands the night in and night out, whatever that means, right? Obviously, it wasn't a great conference on the whole last year, but the familiarity, how much of that matters coming into a new team within the conference?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I mean, this is obviously a guy that has that experience, so he's not going to back down. He knows what it takes on a nightly basis. I also think when you join John Becker and his coaching staff, right? There's guys who are going to be able to pull the most out of a player. So we might even see this kid take another leap in his game, and then you put him next to two of the best forwards in the conference, and really. I'm all about we talk about breakout, right, for for our boy down here, Drew McKenna, man. You look at Gus Yalden, like I think he's got a chance to be one of the best mid-major forwards in the country this coming year. So you put that next to Yepdo. He didn't quite have that last year at UMass. Lowell, I think that's definitely going to rise his stock, right? He's going to be able to play with those two cats in the front court. It's going to make a huge difference. So
Yalden's a guy I want to see in March. Like,
yeah,
that's the type of player that I want to see playing in March. And we'll see if Vermont can get it done and break the little schneid they've been on here. One of the greatest mid-major powers of the last decade plus. It's crazy. But shout out to Vermont. We'll see if they get are they your pick to win the whole thing, Mike?
Yeah, I think if we had tiers, right, there'd probably be a tier 1A, right, and then tier 1B. Obviously, we like to have other teams in the high tier that finish second and third, but I think there's a good chance that Vermont wins this conference by 2+ games. There's just so much talent, and their front court is just going to be really devastating for opposing teams to handle. So I definitely think we see Vermont at the top.
Shout out to John Becker and the Catamounts doing big time work in the America East Conference. And shout out to you for hanging out with us here on One and Done for the America East Conference preview. Make sure you hit all those buttons if you haven't already. We appreciate all of that. Give a big shout out to our guy, Eric the Blue, getting stuff done last minute for this recording tonight. Shout out to our guy, Nape C. Hustle, out there in the Treetop Studios doing his thing. Shout out to Nape C. Hustle at Nape C. Hustle on X, pushing the buttons. Shout out to the guy sharing your viewing/listening device with me. Around here, he's known as El Capitan himself, the captain of the One and Done ship at MC Holland 34 on X, the OG Money Mike. That's Mr. Mike Holland. Make sure you follow along. We're previewing all 32 conferences. We're only a handful in, so hop along for the ride all off season, leading right up to the season when then we're not only doing news and note shows, but we're doing DFS. We're bringing the heat all year long for college basketball. So make sure you follow us everywhere you can at One and Done CBB on all the socials. Tell somebody that you love them. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, my name's JAYHEINRICH. Come again. We'll see you.